This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Grow My Clinic podcast. My name is Jack O'Brien, and we have another guest with us today. It's a run of guests, and this one needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. It is Andy Wang, also known as the Wellness Accountant from Codex Partners. Andy, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. That was an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. I'm like I said to you, I'm normally on the other side of these things, so it actually feels pretty good to be introduced. Thank you.
Right. No, my pleasure. So that's right. You do have your own podcast, Smashed Avocado. Can you tell us quickly about the story behind that name? And if people are interested, where can they go to find out your podcast?
Oh, that name. So a friend of mine, he's a financial planner, and myself, we always have these deep conversations about life, about business, about, you know, just solving the world's problems. And we thought one day that we would just record it, because why not? It was originally called Healthy, Wealthy and Wise. And we were just talking in episode 1, and we're about 5 minutes in, and we were just joking about how, you know what, we could have come up with any name in the world. For example, Smashed Avocado. And at that moment, we both caught each other's eye, and we said, yep, we're renaming the podcast before it's even launched on episode 1.
Right. So nothing really.
No, exactly. Although you did make a very cool connection with the price of Smashed Avocado breakfast and all of that. So we could say that's what it means now.
Cool. It's not very often that people look forward to conversations with accountants. Typically, if you're at a networking event, or you might be at a barbecue with family or friends, and someone tells you that they're an accountant, you try and find an escape from that conversation. But I think today this conversation is going to be a whole lot of fun and going to be really useful for a whole bunch of clinic owners. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of, I think today, if we can lean into how clinic owners can have a relationship with their accountant that energizes them rather than drains them, that's where we're going to head. But first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your story? How on God's earth do you end up doing accounting? Sounds like I'd rather have my fingernails pulled out with pliers. How did you get corrupted? And how did you end up being known as the Wellness Accountant?
Oh, look, I take no offense to any of what you said, because I oftentimes battle with the same thoughts. Honestly, when I started accounting, I didn't even know what it was. I only did accounting because my best friend in high school picked it. So that's how I ended up in it. But I found I actually enjoyed the numbers side of things. I'm quite artistic by nature, but my background being Chinese, like growing up, the family environment was quite oppressive in terms of if you weren't wanting to do doctor, lawyer, medicine, or anything in that sort of space. Right. It was frowned upon. So artist was definitely frowned upon. Right. And accounting or business seemed to really tick that sort of creative box. Okay. So yeah, after uni, I ended up working for a large corporate for about 9 years. Mm-hmm. And it got to a point where I found I was always interested and fascinated in business. And I would always have side hustles on the side while I was working full time. And it was just a natural progression that I would go off and start my own practice, because to me, the idea of buying into a large corporate and, you know, buying ownership, being a partner, having equity, it didn't appeal to me, because I felt like I wouldn't feel like a business owner, even though I was a business owner.
So having shares in a large company isn't really business.
Yeah, having shares in a large company, and you're still sort of an employee. Business should be an expression of your life's purpose. And for me, if I wasn't able to have that freedom of expression, it was sort of pointless. Yeah, so 3 years ago, I started my own practice and partnered with a Codex Partners. And somewhere, I think a year into it, I gave myself the term, the Wellness Accountant. Like I said, I love business. I love the strategy behind it and the creativity behind business. But I also started, a few years ago, I started a journey of personal development. Sure. I was never a real confident kid. I lots of anxiety issues and things like that. So I wanted to unpack that for myself and really grow, because I knew this isn't the extent of my potential. There's way more, just like everyone. And I knew I wanted to put out content and share and teach. I love empowering people. And I knew that I wanted to do it online because that's where most of these things are done now.
Right.
But I didn't want it to be weird if I was one day going to put out business content and another day putting out personal development content. Do you know what I mean? Like if I called myself the in-depth business accountant and I started talking about, I don't know, whether it's spirituality or meditation, it's going to be kind of weird. So I wanted an excuse to do both. And that sort of kicked off the Wellness Accountant. It was my platform where I wouldn't feel weird to talk about both self-growth and business. And that sort of just caught on.
I love it. I love it. And there's probably a lot of clinic owners that would resonate with that. Essentially, we're all in the professional services game where we come out of university, whether it's accountancy or osteopathy or podiatry, exercise physiology. And we have this inner desire to create something that is an extension and an expression of ourselves. A lot of clinic owners do that in the clinical space. A myotherapist comes to mind, Urban Leopard, our friend Moyen in Melbourne, who has created this beautiful space. It's just an extension of herself. And it seems like you've done that with the Wellness Accountant and your personal brand and created a business now that can serve people that you really resonate with and gives you the lifestyle and freedoms to really express yourself. Is that about right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always operated on the notion, and this is something I always speak to my clients about as well, where you can sort of take two paths, right? One way you can look at business as having its own mission, purpose, values in life, as if it's a sentient being. And that's true to a certain extent if we're talking about BHP and Rio, the multinational companies where they're so separated from the owner. But when we're talking about a small business, it's the business's purpose and values and driven and mission and drive is driven by the owner.
Sure.
If you took the owner out of it, the business doesn't exist, and that means a business has to serve the people who created it. And I think that's something which gets forgotten. So when I created this business of mine, I knew I didn't want to lose sight of that.
And that's really interesting because now you've explained to me before this call that as you work with clients, that's a really important element, that you find clients that resonate, that have similar values, that are really driven and aligned. For those listening, when it comes to choosing accountants or working with accountants, often it's fairly transactional, it's fairly removed and distant. What is it like when you as an accountant can have a relationship with a business owner that you really enjoy and can work together towards a common goal? What is that like?
A lot of things are coming to my mind because I'm just drawing on so many clients of mine where I'm like, cool, I love that about this and that. What it looks like, and every accountant does work a bit differently. The first thing I would say is the clarity of communication and frequency of communication and the freedom of it.
Okay.
That is by far the biggest difference. So there should be no fear in calling your accountant worried that you'll get a bill. That really should be discussed well ahead when the engagement was first sort of undertaken. And secondly, it's when you're speaking to your accountant, it should be open, honest communication where there is no, I'm an advisor and you're a client. You're talking on equal footing, sure. And it's really a sharing of ideas to create something better.
Yeah. Right.
And one thing which I really do believe in, I really believe in empowering people. And I do believe as accountants, we should be educators. Back in the day, sure, you go to your accountant, you go there, you ask for a tax return, they walk away, they rummage around in the back and come back with a tax return a few weeks, a few months, however long later. And that's the end of the transaction. You don't see them again until the next year. Things are really changing. And to give you guys an insight, the accounting industry is being really shaken up with technology, with outsourcing, where a lot of accountants are facing pressures to have to upskill.
Sure.
And as a result of doing so, a lot of that tax return work can't be their sole point of difference anymore. So if you're working with an accountant, really speak to that accountant and try and build relationships where they're giving you more than just a tax return. It should be empowering you, teaching you how to understand your own numbers so you don't have to ask every time you need to know what the numbers look like. It's really empowering you to manage money, how to look at business procedures. So it's almost, I see new age accounting as a blur between the traditional services and then really go into that business coaching space as well.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. You almost want a business partner out of your accountant, right? It's a CFO role in some capacities. So, okay, so you do things a little bit differently, and you've niched yourself, or at least specialize in looking after health professionals and those in the wellness space.
Yeah.
What is it that you see in those health businesses, wellness businesses, that they do really well with the ones that you work with?
They love what they do.
Okay, right. Tell us more about that.
They love what they do in the sense that I don't think I've worked with a wellness, health, or a professional or someone in that coaching space who thought, I'm getting into this because this is an opportunity and I can make a lot of money from it. They were all wanting to be great practitioners and help people. And that's one thing I absolutely love. Have you read the E-Myth?
Yes, Michael Gerber.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the listeners out there, great book. If you haven't read it, this is a super foundational point. So it breaks down roles in a business between entrepreneur, manager, and the technician. And if you look at it, the entrepreneur is a person with the big vision, and the technician is a person who's doing the work. I find a lot of practitioners are great. They're really passionate about the technician side. And contrast that with a lot of younger business owners who might be in other industries who want to be a business owner or an entrepreneur because the idea of it's great, or they like there's a market that can be taken advantage of. They might be great entrepreneurs, but without someone doing the work and enjoying doing the work, you have nothing. Right. So that's one thing which I find working with health professionals I've really enjoyed, because regardless, even if they can't run a business to begin with because they've never been taught to, they can do the work and they like it.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Okay, so let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about business owners working with their accountants. What are some of the pitfalls that you see business owners get into? What are some of the questions that you don't like being asked? Some of the mistakes that business owners make when it comes to trying to work with their accountant?
That's an interesting question. Personally, I don't have questions I don't like getting into. Sometimes questions can be hairy, but I find they're often the ones which build the strongest relationships.
Okay, sure.
When you do have uncomfortable conversations with clients and things like that, because it does happen, I find they build stronger relationships. But areas where, and I think this goes back to the question earlier, where I think places where the business owners don't take advantage of enough is tapping into the accountant's knowledge for their own personal growth.
Okay, sure. So as in personal finances, personal mindset, that sort of thing?
Yeah, personal finance, personal mindset, but also just being empowered on how to run a business and managing business finances as well. I feel like, and this is where I don't know if it's chicken or egg mentality, but I've got to apologize on behalf of accountants. In the past, is we in uni, we were never taught sales skills or even just the how to market more. So we've always had the mentality of, you give me an order, I will fulfill that order, I'll give you the product of that order. Sure. There's no, I noticed you had that order, but what I did find is people who ordered that also really enjoyed this, right? Now, that can be looked at two ways. One way, it's sales, but the other way to look at it is it really does help the business owner. So for example, if you constantly go in for management meetings or you're constantly asking the same question over and over again.
Sure.
It might be time for your accountant to teach you, hey, look, you might be paying me to do this, but you really shouldn't need to pay me to do this. Here's how you can do it yourself, or here's how you can understand most of yourself.
Yeah, okay. I like that. Okay, so as an extension of that, what are some habits that you see really good business owners employing? Are there any particular reports that they look at? What's the frequency of checking their numbers? What do really great business owners do? On
a personal level, I find great business owners don't stop learning. We have some mutual clients in common, and these are clients who I don't have to remind on many things at all, and I feel comfortable knowing that the business is just thriving because they're constantly learning, they're growing, they're upskilling themselves to the point where, and for me, it feels a bit scary. It's like, oh my God, my client doesn't need me, right? It's
Right.
but that's the best scenario to be in. It means that they are really thriving on their own, and that what else could I ask for? So then the role I play becomes, okay, when you do have any questions, just pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
one habit is that growth, that self-driven growth. Another habit is actually, and this is something I've found very common for not just health practitioners, but clients all across the board, is knowing their own personal finances and their business finances. And I don't mean just a balance sheet or a profit and loss where you're looking at things retrospectively, but I mean, if I asked you, what is your bleed rate? And what I mean by that is, every month, what do you need personally to have food on the table and roof over your head and money to spend, money to put aside? And what does your business need? Habits like that, where it's managing the money, I find successful business owners do that very differently.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. So they've got that grasp on the tip of their tongue of what it means to know their numbers in their own personal life and business. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, because what it looks like is you'll know exactly if you can expand, when you can expand, what you need to hit to expand, because it's very static. The monthly figure is what you need to survive. And from a personal point of view, if you're a new practitioner looking to go into business, it also takes away, it mitigates the fear, because all of a sudden it goes from, oh my God, I don't know if I can survive, or I just going to need to make this work, to, oh, I only need $5,000 after tax a month. Okay, how many clients does that look like?
Yeah. It's control, right? We can sleep easier when we've got control. And I know I just got off a coaching call with a podiatrist clinic owner, and we were running through her P&L in order to be able to budget for this coming financial year. At the time of this recording, it's the start of July. And she just said, oh, I feel like I'm in control, which is a feeling that she'd never had before, which was really beautiful. Andy, tell us about, let's change gears. You mentioned prior to this call tech, and you love certain technologies. What apps or what features do you find really progressive business owners and clinic owners, what tech works really well for them?
For people across the board, I'm a huge Zero fanboy. So disclaimer is, yeah, exactly. I have used other programs before, so QuickBooks isn't a bad one. They've really upped their game in the last year and a bit. But when they first started, that's when I tried both, and I jumped on the Zero bandwagon. But cloud-based accounting software, amazing. I'm a huge fan of Receipt Bank, and what that does is, instead of uploading receipts or invoices for expenses one by one, you literally take a photo with it using an app on your phone. The app will automatically read the date, the amount, the GST, everything, and it will have a guess at what account to put it to, and then you shoot it across your accounting system, and it just makes a 3-minute job into a 20-second job, which, I mean, when you look at it on a transaction by transaction, it's not much, but when you're looking at it over 20, 30, 50, 100 transactions, that's a lot of time.
It is. We've just started using Receipt Bank in my clinic personally. And my bookkeeper said to me at the end of last week, she's like, what do I do with my time now that you've taken 2 hours a week off me, effectively?
It's amazing. It's
really
amazing, right? I do believe that step one is use tech to automate where possible. Then step two is to put in procedures to make the rest of it as sort of step by step as possible. And after that, people can spend their time onto more value add things. Other apps I personally love Todoist as a day-to-day, just a prioritizer. It's Todoist. So it sounds like to-do list without the L. Asana, I know you guys use a fair bit. I love that for workflow.
Yes.
And what's popular in the coaching space, actually, where we have, whether it's wellness coaches, life coaches, and things like that, Practice Ignition is a good one, where you send out a proposal to people and they can accept it then and there. Oftentimes coaches have 12-month retainers. So they'll
Sure.
work with people monthly for 12 months. And this app will automatically direct debit it over 12 months. But the thing is, it's also integrated with Xero.
Right,
So
okay.
when the proposal's accepted, the invoice also gets created in Xero. So you're not having to ask someone for the credit card details, punch them in yourself, then go and make an invoice. It's all done through the one gateway.
Yeah, right. So that would be really useful for, like you said, health coaches, nutrition coaches, but even dietitians and naturopaths, those people who are prescribing plans and proposals to their clients. That's really interesting. One more thing, Andy, as we look towards wrapping up, but you mentioned at the top there that business owners shouldn't be fearful about picking up the phone and calling their accountant. I think a lot of business owners, especially those that have been around for a while, may have had the experience where they pick up the phone or they send an email to their accountant and they get a bill for a 6-minute consultation. Can you tell us around what should we be thinking about when we're negotiating an arrangement with our accountant?
Okay. I do remember those times where I did get a call from a surprise client. This was when I was working in a corporate. Things are changing. Unfortunately, it's not fast enough. But one thing which is certainly not it's not uncommon is to ask for a fixed fee arrangement with your accountant, whereby, and this is how I personally run my practice, where, for example, just say we have the standard BAS and tax for an accountant, for a client every year. We'll quote that up front, and that's just done on one invoice up front, and it gets automatically direct debited every month, right? Yeah. Now, the benefit of that is when there are questions and things like that, because the cash flow is coming in monthly for the accountant, right. It's great. There's that, okay, even though I'm not getting paid anymore, I'm able to service this client because that cash flow is coming in. And it takes the pressure of having to be so, just so angsty about, recording this 5 or 6 minutes. So really have the conversation about having a fixed fee with your accountant, which includes advice, which includes questions, which includes tax, and just get that up front. Yes, it might cost a bit more in some cases, but at least you'll have the emotional freedom of, I don't need to be worried. It's peace of mind.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I was going to say the package mindset, and that's certainly the approach that we have, is we've got a package arrangement because it's an investment in outcomes. I'm not interested, and as health professionals, we don't want to be ones that bill our patients on a fee for time. You don't want to be billing by the 20-minute appointment, or that. You want outcomes. And so as a clinic owner working with your accountant, you need to be thinking about what is the outcome that this accountant provides me with. One, they keep me out of jail for fraud. And two, they make sure I pay as little tax as possible and I end up with as much money as. And so what's that worth to you as a package, an outcomes basis, and then you don't have to worry about the 6-minute bills. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely. You just brought up something which I hadn't thought of before, but a great question to ask is, okay, assuming my client, my accountant does my taxes, minimizes my tax, and assuming those two things are done, right? The absolute bare minimum. What else would I like them to do? What else would benefit me? Really ask yourself that question, and then that'll be the conversation with the accountant in terms of, hey, look, I would love to talk about tax plannings. I can forecast my cash flows for the next year. I'd love to talk about protecting everything. I'd love to talk about when can I grow next, and so on. Brilliant.
Yeah, such a crucial thing. Andy, thank you so much for your wisdom and your insight. And we love the fact that you've got insider knowledge on the health space and the wellness space. We find that really useful. If people want to learn a little bit more about you and your personal brand, your personality, your accounting firm, where should they go to read more?
From a social media point of view, on both Facebook and Instagram at /The Wellness Accountant as the end tags. LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure I'm at /The Wellness Accountant as well. And I'll provide a few links just to the website. But the business website is acodex, ACCODEX.com.au. But yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been awesome to chat.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And listeners, we'll link all that up in the show notes for you so you can find all those handles and websites there. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Listeners, you can find those at www.clinicmastery.com/ podcast. That is the place to go for all of those links. Make sure you leave us a review or rating on iTunes. We really appreciate those. Make sure you check out Andy. We'll look forward to having you on a future episode. And listeners, we look forward to talking to you again really soon.
This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.